Right, just going over some key questions and key misconceptions that the class scored orange or under for, so less than 50%. So when you factorise, you have to take out the biggest factor. So the biggest factor out of the numbers is 6. Now factorising is the opposite of expanding. So 6 times what makes 18? That's a 3. And then we put the x in. Because if we multiply that out, that will make 18x. And then that will be, how do we get 6y? Well, that will just be y. And there you go, that's quite straightforward. So expand and simplify. Imagine you've got a rectangle, so you understand the method. That length is x, this length is 2. So up to here, that will be 6 times x, which makes 6x. This area, 6 times 2 will be 12. So that simplified is just 6x plus 12. You don't need to simplify that because these are not like terms, they're different terms. And some people just prefer to do that for single bracket. 6 times x is 6x plus 12. Quite straightforward. And the 30th term of a sequence. So the 30th term would be when n equals 30. So all you need to do is substitute n as 30. So you do 7 minus 30 times 3. That's going to equal 7 minus 90. So that answer equals minus 83. What's the nth term of the following sequence? So remember the dino rule. You need to find a difference. So it's going up by plus 3, like the 3 times table. And it's an nth term rule, so we can say it's 3n. Now, if I was to write the 3 times table underneath this, you can easily see what's the difference between here and here. It's minus 2, right? So the difference at the n and O, well, I'll show you O, the original term, so that's term 0. If you used to go back one more, that answer will be minus 2. Can you spot that's all the same? So that sequence is 3n minus 2. And you can check that, so let n equal 4. So it should equal that if it works. So what's 3 times 4 minus 2? Well, it equals 10. So we're good to go there. So simplifying expressions, we can only add and subtract like terms. X is not the same as x squared, because imagine you cannot add a square to a line. That's what squared mean, and that's why you can't add cube numbers, x cubed, to squares either. So the easiest thing is think about it. This, what's 10x squared minus 3x squared? Well, that's going to be 7x squared. Now let's look at this 12x. We've got plus 12x minus 4x. Those are like terms, so we can do that. So what's 12x minus 4x? Is 8, so that must be plus 8x. So if you remember y equals mx plus c, guys, so you did this quite a long time ago. M is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. So c is always a number, so you can see the y-intercept is 5 there. So for this question, c equals 5. But it's not asking that, is it? It's asking which of the following equations is the equation of a line parallel to. So I believe this is a multiple choice question. So imagine if the gradient is 2 like this, and that was a line y equals 2x plus 5. This would probably be y equals 2x plus 3, and 2x, the line 2x plus 6 maybe, this one. Hopefully. So what you can see is parallel lines have to have the same gradient. So it would have been any question which had y equals 2x plus 3, y equals 2x minus 5, or it could have been 2y equals 4x plus 2 if that was an option, because if you divide this by 2 to make it in the form y equals mx plus c, that will become y equals 2x plus 2, which makes them all parallel. If the gradients are the same, they're parallel. So the y-intercept, I showed you, y equals mx plus c. What is the c here? C equals minus 4. So once you remember this, it's just marks in your pocket. So what are the coordinates of the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is when it crosses the y-axis. And you can see that is minus 5. So the coordinates of the y-intercept will be 0, minus 5. Because that's the x-coordinate and that's the y-coordinate. So what integer satisfies this inequality? Well, let's have a look. So it says n is in between. This is what it means. N is in between minus 3 and 2. And it's less than 2. Can you see the arrow? That's less than 2. So that would mean n is minus 3 is less than n, right? So what numbers can go in between there? Well, it hasn't got this symbol, which means equal to as well. So it has to be minus 2, integers are whole numbers, minus 1, 0, and 1. And it doesn't include 2 because it doesn't have that symbol. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, inequalities is just like solving equations, but you keep the equation the same. So if I was to solve this equals 17, I would minus 2 on both sides to get 3x equals 15. Then I'll divide by 3 on both sides, and you'll get left with x equals 5. Now that is called an equation, right? One value of x. So this is exactly the same, but you just keep the inequality sign in. So you minus 2 minus 2. So you know 3x is less than 15. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. So you get x is less than 5. And 5 is an integer, so that's what it's asking for. And that means that a solution to this is x is 4, x is 3, x equals 2, x equals 1, because it's any number that's less than 5. That should be clear to you. So, some questions that some of you got wrong, over 50% of the class, but it's easy to fix. So, let's have a look at this question here. Right, this is not in standard form because the number in the front has to be between 1 and 10. So you remember that. So what's happened to this number and this number from here to here? Can you see it's being divided by 10? So to keep this answer the same, what's got to happen to this power? You divide by 10 from one side, and you've got to times it by 10. So if I have 10 to the 8 times 10, you should know that's the same as 10 to the power 9, and that will be the value of a, so a equals 9. What type of triangle is shown in the diagram? Well, okay. If you know this is 50 and that is 50, then you could assume, well, that's 80. Because of angles on a straight line. But the key is if you can see this alternate angle here, to prove it, that's 50 because that's the Z, and then you've got that Z here, alternate angle, so that's 50. And if they ask for a reason, it's because alternate angles are equal. Then it's quite easy to say this is an isosceles triangle. Right, here's a survey. And a student who walks to school is chosen at random. Find the probability that their family owns a car. Give your fraction in its simplest form. So there's 100 students, and they've asked if they want to walk to school. She also asked them if their family owns a car. Her results are shown you before. A student who walks to school is chosen at random. So this is the trick here. I think you guys just generally looked at the total amount and looked at the people who own a car. But it says she chose out of the group who walks to school. So if she's choosing out of this lot of people here, just this section, not the whole table, it's all in the wording here. So it's only out of this group of students. Find the probability that their family owns a car. Well, family owns a car is 60. There's 60 people own a car. It's out of 70. That's a nice easy fraction to simplify. You divide top and bottom by 10. And that's 6 out of 7. And that should be straightforward for you. You can spot the wording. I know you can all do that. But you probably missed out on this because we weren't in school for me to teach you this and give you some more practice on these types of questions.